Imagine that your life is like a garden so that it flourishes and is a place of peace and growth. You need to take care of the plants, make sure they get enough light and water, and most importantly, protect it from weeds. These weeds may seem harmless at first, but if you let them in soon, they will consume all the space, resources, and even the beauty of your garden. In our life, those weeds can be certain types of people who, without us realizing it, can drain us emotionally, rob us of peace, and even take us away from our purpose. In this video, I want to take you on a deep and meaningful tour about 8 types of people that are best kept out of your close circle, not because they are bad people, but because their energy, attitudes, or actions do not fit with the life you want to build. Of course, we are not talking of becoming a hermit or someone insensitive, but of learning to recognize what kinds of interactions empower you and which ones take away more from you than they give you. The first key: the negative person who always complains. You've realized that being around someone who complains all the time is like carrying a backpack full of stones. No matter how well you start your day, when you surround yourself with these types of people, end up exhausted. And I'm not talking about someone who shares their problems occasionally, because we all need support from time to time. I talk about those who have made complaining a lifestyle. Nothing satisfies them. They always find something wrong, and their energy seems to suck out any spark of enthusiasm you have. The Stoics teach us that we should focus on what we can control and accept with serenity what is not there in our hands. But these negative people act exactly against this principle, focus only on what they can't change, and then drag others into their emotional storm. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it, that matters." If someone constantly reacts to everything with complaints and pessimism, that attitude can start to rub off on you. You may find yourself seeing the world with the same eyes, gray, and without realizing it, you also become a person who complains. Think about how this can affect your life. Constant complaining is not only a thief of time, but also of energy. Imagine that you are working on an important project or fighting for a dream. Someone who always complains can sabotage your focus and fill you with doubts. Why do you try? It's not worth it. The world is so bad. That nothing will change sounds familiar to you. If you allow these ideas to enter your mind, can become giant obstacles that you build yourself. Now, it's not about being cruel or abandoning these people just like that. Sometimes someone close to you can be stuck in a cycle of negativity because they are going through a difficult time. The first thing is to try to help them change their perspective. Perhaps an honest conversation about how they affect their people. Complaining can be a starting point, but if after trying, their attitude remains the same, you have to protect your peace. There is nothing wrong with setting clear boundaries. Why it is so important? Because your energy is limited and valuable. You cannot allow it to be drained by someone who at the end of the day is not willing to change. Surrounding yourself with people who inspire, motivate, and see the best in life is key to grow and achieve your goals. The next time you notice someone complaining about everything, stop and ask yourself, this attitude is helping me or is stopping me? Because as Marcus Aurelius said, the soul is dyed with the color of its thoughts, and if you constantly hear complaints, it is very likely that your soul will begin to be dyed with that same somber tonality. The solution here is not to reject or despise anyone, but to choose with be careful who you allow to influence your life, just as you take care of what you eat because it affects your body. Take care of who you listen to because it affects your mind. Surround yourself with people who focus on the positive and seek solutions, not problems, is an act of self-love and Stoic wisdom. Second key: the envious person who does not celebrate your achievements. Have you ever felt that someone close to you cannot be happy about your successes? Maybe you shared good news with enthusiasm, and instead of receiving an incredible "how," what you got was a lukewarm response, or even worse, a comment that tried to minimize your achievement. That is a clear sign of someone who lives with envy, and believe me, these types of people can be a great emotional burden. Envy is like a spark that, if left unchecked, can set a relationship on fire. The Stoics teach us that we should not compare us with others because each person is fighting their own battle. Marcus Aurelius expressed it masterfully. Don't waste time thinking about what others have or do. Worry about living your own life with integrity. However, an envious person does not follow this advice, constantly compares themselves to you, and instead of using your achievements as inspiration, sees them as a threat. Now, how does this affect your life? An envious person can sabotage you in very subtle ways. Maybe he makes passive-aggressive comments to make you doubt yourself. Well, your achievement is fine, but it's really not that big, right? Or maybe he ignores you completely. When you share something important, these attitudes not only hurt, but they can also sow insecurity in you. And here's the key. A person who can't be happy for you is that deep down he's not there. At peace with yourself, envy is a reflection of your own dissatisfaction and your inability to see your unique value. But it's not your job to fix. That's their path, not yours. The problem arises when you allow these attitudes to influence how you see your own achievements. Imagine that you worked hard to achieve a goal, but due to a lack of support or disdain from someone close to you, you start to downplay it. Maybe it wasn't that bad, you might think, and that's where you lose. Because every success, no matter how small, deserves to be celebrated. The Stoic philosophy reminds us that our self-esteem should not depend on the approval of others. Epictetus said, "He who seeks the approval of others becomes their slave." So if someone can't celebrate your victories, it's time to reflect. This relationship is helping you move forward, or it's holding you back now. I'm not saying that you should immediately cut off all the envious people in your life. Sometimes someone can act like this out of ignorance or because of a bad emotional moment. If it's someone you value, you can try to speak honestly and open the door to understanding. But if their envy becomes a constant pattern that drains you emotionally, setting boundaries is essential. Remember, the people who truly deserve to be in your life is those that celebrate with you, that motivate you to continue growing, and that find joy in your achievements. Stay away from those who see your brightness as a threat, because your light is not destined to be extinguished by anyone's darkness. So here goes the challenge. Value the people who sincerely rejoice for you and learn to identify those who don't. Because, as Seneca said, success is not, it makes sense if it is not shared with those who are really happy about it. The third key, the manipulative person who always has a hidden agenda. We are going to talk about those people who seem friendly and helpful at first, but who gradually realize that everything they do has a hidden purpose, their own benefit. These types of people are experts in the art of manipulating, and if you are not attentive, they can lead you to make decisions you don't really want just to satisfy their interests. A manipulative person is not always obvious. They don't usually ask for things directly because they know that could expose their true intentions. Instead, they use more subtle techniques such as guilt, excessive praise, or even making you feel like you owe them something. And here is the problem: a relationship with someone like that is rarely balanced. You will always be giving more than you receive. Marcus Aurelius left us a perfect reflection to deal with. These people remove from your life the need for approval or control from others, and you will have eliminated many invisible chains. Manipulative people depend on those chains to control you. If you seek their approval or you are worried about disappointing them, easier for them to guide you to what suits them. Why so important to identify manipulative people? Because being close mental clarity. Imagine that you are constantly questioning whether you do the right thing, not because you believe it, but because someone else made you feel guilty or inadequate. That's the trap. How to recognize them? Look at patterns. A manipulative person tends to act as if everything they do for you is a big sacrifice, and then they expect something in return, or they can using phrases such as, "If you really loved me, you would do this for me," to put yourself in a position where you feel that you have no choice. In addition, they usually avoid direct confrontations, preferring to handle things in the shadows, where their control is more effective. Stoicism teaches us that we must be masters of our decisions and not allow others to take control of our lives. Epictetus summarized it brilliantly. No man is free if he cannot control yourself, and that includes controlling who you allow to influence your decisions. If you detect a manipulative person in your life, the first thing is to set clear boundaries. Manipulation only works if you allow it, so learn to say no without guilt. Remember that you don't have to justify your decisions, especially when you know they are the best for you. Clarity and firmness are your best tools against someone who try manipulate you. However, let's not confuse manipulation with well-intentioned advice. There are people who genuinely want to help you and offer you their opinion from a place of love. The difference is in the intention. Someone who manipulates you seeks your benefit, while someone who supports you seeks the best for you. Protect yourself from these people, because in the long term they take you away from your authenticity. Your life should be guided by your values and not by the hidden agendas of others, because, as Seneca said, life is too short to be lived in terms of others. Fourth key. The person who criticizes without building. We have all known someone who seems to have a special talent for finding flaws in everything you do, no matter how hard you try. They always have something negative to say, and I don't mean constructive criticism, the kind that comes from someone who wants to see you improve. I am talking about criticism that hurts, the one that does not offer solutions but simply seeks to point out your faults. This type of people can become an immense emotional burden if you let them into your life. Stoicism teaches us that we must be receptive to criticism when it has the purpose of helping us grow, but it also warns us against those people whose only objective is to break down our confidence. Marcus Aurelius said, "Accept criticism if it is true, ignore it if it is not." However, how do you identify someone who criticizes without building easily? These people rarely tell you how to improve. Their focus is always on the problem, never on the solution. The problem with this type of person is that they can sow insecurities that you did not have before. Maybe you start to question your decisions or feel that nothing you do is enough. And here's the crucial point. A person who constantly criticizes without adding value is not reflecting your limitations, but their own. Their need to look down on others often comes from a deep insecurity. Imagine that you are building something important in your life, a project, a relationship, or even a new version of yourself. If you allow these meaningless criticisms to enter your mind, it is as if you are building a home and someone was constantly coming to kick the foundation. You can't move forward if you're always dealing with comments that don't add up. Now, what to do with these people? The first thing is to evaluate if their intention is genuine. Sometimes someone can have a bad day and be more critical than normal, but if this becomes a constant pattern, you need to set boundaries. You can respond directly but respectfully. Something like, "I appreciate your comments, but it would help me more if you also tell me how to improve." This tends to disarm those who criticize without thinking, because it confronts them with the reality that they are not being useful. Also remember that you do not have to accept all criticism as valid. Epictetus said, "It is impossible to progress if you let each comment disturb you." Learn to discern between what is useful and what is not. If the criticism does not come with an intention of building, has no place in your mind or in your life. Finally, consider how close you want to have these people. If their comments are constant and begin to affect your inner peace, it may be time to not avoid all kinds of feedback, but to protect yourself from that which does not have a positive purpose. Surround yourself with people who criticize constructively, who point out areas of improvement, but also encourage and support you. Is one of the best decisions you can make. As Seneca said, "It is better to be in the company of those who make you feel capable than those who make you doubt your value." If so far this video is making you reflect and you feel that you are learning something new, this is the perfect time to remind you to like this video, because that helps me a lot to continue creating content like this one. And of course, if you haven't done it yet, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss more content about Stoicism, personal development, and reflections that really transform. I also want to know what you think. Have you ever identified any of these people in your life? Leave it to me in the comments. I love reading them, and together we can learn even more from these experiences. Let's continue with the keys. Fifth key: the gossipy person who enjoys the gossips. Those people who always seem to know something about someone, who love to share stories that are often distorted and who feed on the chaos and drama they generate, may not seem so harmful at first. They may even be entertained with their anecdotes and comments. But if you look carefully, you will realize that these people can be a real poison for your tranquility and your relationships. Stoicism invites us to live a life focused on what is essential, leaving aside the superficial. Marcus Aurelius tells us, "Dedicate your energy to what is good and useful, and let the rest flow without disturbing you." And here is the problem with gossipy people. Their energy is completely focused on the trivial, on what does not concern them, and many times on what is not even true. Why it is important to keep these people out of your life? Because gossip has the power to destroy trust, not only between you and them, but also between you and other people. Once you get involved with someone who constantly talks about others, an inevitable question arises. What will they be saying about me when I am not present? This type of doubt can affect your peace of mind and your relationships with others. Gossiping people usually bring you problems that you didn't ask for. For example, imagine that someone tells you something negative about another person. Even if you don't do anything with that information, The simple fact of listening to it can place you at the center of a conflict when that story comes to light, and the worst thing is that many times gossip is nothing more than half-truths or outright lies. So how to handle a gossiping person? The first step is not to participate. Don't encourage the behavior. If someone starts telling you gossip, you can respond with something neutral, such as "I prefer not to get involved in that topic," or "I don't think it's fair to talk about it without the person present." These types of comments usually stop gossipers because you take away the fuel they need, your attention. Seneca reminds us of the time we spend talking about the flaws of others. It's time that we could use to correct our own, and that's something that gossips don't understand. They prefer to focus their attention on others because it allows them to avoid facing their own imperfections if the person insists on involving you in their stories. Maybe it's time to reevaluate how much space you give them in your life. You don't have to cut off the relationship right away, but you can reduce contact and make sure that conversations are kept on more positive and meaningful topics. Remember, your energy is limited. Every minute you spend listening to gossip is a minute you could use to learn something new or just enjoy your peace. Surround yourself with people who prefer to talk about ideas, projects, or dreams instead of other people's problems is one of the best decisions you can make. Sixth key: the person who never takes responsibility for their mistakes. You have come across someone who always has an excuse for everything. If something goes wrong, it's always someone else's fault, from the boss system climate of their childhood, anything but themselves. These types of people have a knack for avoiding responsibility, and although it may seem harmless at first, over time you realize that their attitude can be a huge drag on your relationships and your own peace of mind. The Stoics, they teach us that accepting responsibility for our actions is fundamental to living with integrity. Epictetus said, "Don't complain about what's going on around you, rather take care of what's in your power to change it." But these people don't follow that advice. They prefer to spend their energy looking for culprits instead of solutions. Why is it so important to identify these types of people? Because when someone never takes responsibility for their actions, mistakes, that burden usually falls on those around them. If you work with someone like that, it is likely that they will end up making twice as much effort to fix their failures. If you are in a relationship with a person who acts in this way, you have surely felt the frustration of having to take the blame or carry problems that do not correspond to you. And here comes the most delicate thing. If these people see that they always manage to evade the responsibility, will continue to do so in the long run. Their attitude not only affects your energy and time, but also your confidence in them. Because let's be honest, how you can trust someone who never admits their mistakes or commits to improving? How to handle this situation? The first thing is to set clear boundaries. If you notice that someone is constantly trying to blame you for their mistakes, don't be afraid to point it out calmly and firmly. You can say something as, "I understand that this didn't go as we expected, but I think we all have some responsibility here. What can you do to prevent this kind of approach from happening again?" Puts the ball in their court and forces them to reflect on their role in the situation. It's also important to remember that you can't change someone who isn't willing to change. If this attitude is a consistent pattern and you don't see willingness on their part to take responsibility, it may be time to reconsider how much space you want to give them in your life. He expressed it perfectly. Do not carry the weight of the mistakes of others, since enough is the weight of your own. Keeping people like this close can be exhausting, especially if you always end up taking blame or resolving problems that don't belong to you. Surround yourself with those who understand that mistakes are opportunities to learn and grow, not to blame others. Seventh key: the person who always competes with you. We all know someone who turns any interaction into a competition. It doesn't matter if you share an achievement, an experience, or even something trivial. They always have to have something better, bigger, or more impressive to tell. If you bought a car, they do it. They did it before, and theirs is more expensive. If you mention that you are working on an interesting project, they are already planning something that, according to them, will be even more impactful. This type of people, although they may seem harmless over time, they become exhausting. Stoicism teaches us not to fall into the game of comparisons. Marcus Aurelius said, "The happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts, not on opinions from others." However, a competitive person can make you constantly question whether what you're doing is enough. Their need to compete isn't about you. It's about themselves, their insecurity, and their need for validation. Why it's important to identify this type of behavior, because constant competition can undermine your self-esteem and turn relationships that should be supportive into a source of stress instead of if you feel happy about your achievements. You can end up doubting them because there is always someone around you who tries to overshadow you. Imagine this scene. You share something that excites you. Maybe you achieved a promotion or fulfilled a personal goal. Instead of receiving a sincere congratulations, you meet someone who says, "Oh, that's fine, but when I did something similar, it was much more difficult." It's frustrating, right? This dynamic can make you feel that you have to try even harder to get their validation, something that will never come, because for them, they always have to be one step ahead. Then how? To handle these people first, recognize that their need to compete is not a reflection of your accomplishments, but of their own insecurities. The key is to not let their comments affect you, Seneca said. Don't let the noise of others' vanities deflect your attention to what really matters. Stay focused on your goals and what makes you happy. It is also helpful to set emotional boundaries if you notice that this person always transforms your achievements into a competition. Consider not sharing certain things with them. This does not mean that you are isolating yourself, but that you are protecting your peace. There is a big difference between someone who is happy for you and someone who is always trying to improve you last. Remember that you don't have to compete with anyone but yourself. Personal growth is not measured by comparing yourself to others, but to the person you were yesterday. Surround yourself with people who celebrate your successes with you, not those who make them an opportunity to show off theirs. Key 8. The person who always brings problems but never solutions. You've met someone who seems to be constantly involved in chaos. They are that kind of people who, no matter where they go, carry with them a trail of conflicts, drama, and complicated situations. The most frustrating thing about these people is that although they are very good at identifying problems, they never seem to have a single idea of how to solve them. They are specialists in lighting the fire, but they never bring water to put it out. Stoicism teaches us to focus on solutions, not on problems. Epictetus said, "Worry about what you can control and let aside what they don't." But these people operate in opposite ways. Their energy is completely focused on what is wrong, and they expect others to take responsibility for fixing it. The danger of having someone like that in your life is that their constant negativity can drain your energy and your mental clarity. Imagine that you are working on a project or facing a personal challenge. Instead of receiving support or constructive ideas, this person appears with an endless list of things that could go wrong. The worst thing is that when you try to look for solutions, they do not contribute anything useful. This not only generates stress, but can make you feel that the problems are bigger than they really are. Now, let's not confuse this with someone who genuinely needs help. We all go through difficult times in which we feel overwhelmed and need support. The difference is in the attitude. Someone who always brings problems but never solutions, does not seek to get out of the chaos, seems to feel comfortable in it. How to handle this type of situation? The first thing is not to fall into his game. Seneca reminds us the one who drowns does not need you to sink with him, but to help him get out. If someone constantly presents you with emotional problems, you can respond with something like, "I understand what you are telling me, but what do you think we could do to solve it?" This approach not only sets a clear boundary, but also puts the responsibility back on them. However, if you notice that this person is not interested in finding solutions and that their negativity is starting to affect you, it may be time to reconsider how much space you give them in your life. You don't have to be the savior of all other people's problems, especially if the other person doesn't show is in changing their perspective. Surround yourself with people who not only identify problems but are also willing to work on solutions with you. These relationships are much healthier and more productive and will allow you to keep the focus on what really matters. Because, as Marcus Aurelius said, everything that happens can be transformed into an opportunity to grow if you choose to.